Welcome to Latino Motion, a weekly interview show highlighting issues impacting the local South Jersey Latino community while advancing understanding of Latino cultural heritage and contributions to our society. And here's your host, Bert Lopez.
Welcome back to Latino Motion, and we're here talking about dating for those of you who are single, and also there's some useful information in the book for couples as well. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Jim and Lisette, again, we're talking about your book that you guys wrote together. We were talking about a lot of things. We just want to go back to the one issue that you kept bringing up, and that is that you really need to know who you are, to know yourself. And the book kind of guides you through that so that you could get to the point where you write the list. Right. And there's a workbook and kind of in there, a list that you could actually fill in the book as well. So what advice do you give on how one gets to really know who they are? And I know it's not an easy thing.
It's not an easy thing, and Lisette has a good example from a training she was doing this past weekend.
Yes, we provide one training for one group. In the first exercise, say, okay, you make a list about who you are. It's amazing that 10 people is in the room, he write two items. He say, what happened? You can do. Say, no, homework, okay? Sometimes you see it's easy, I know who I am. But it's sometimes when you need read, you need understand and thinking what really you are, maybe is the interesting. If the book provides some table on that you can write specific for different area. So the book helps for you.
That's kind of like a guide there to help you find who you are, because it's something that we really don't often think about. And when you got to really do that self-analysis, you kind of need a little bit of help to do that. And the book does that. So you also talk in the book about the ghosts of your ancestors. Right. What do you mean by that?
Well, we are haunted by what we learned when we were children, what we experienced with our families, what we experienced with past relationships. And what happens is that those are memories we have that become programs in our unconscious. So we don't really recognize it a lot. But when you're, say, 5 years old and you recognize at that time how your parents interact, the major figures in your life, how they interact, that impacts you. So now you're 40 years old and you're basing your relationship on that image you have from 35 years ago. So when you see somebody, you may treat them the same way that your father treated your mother, no matter if it's right or wrong, because you think that's what love is. So that becomes something that haunts us and our relationships unless we understand what we learned when we were younger, realize it's a program and not really love or a way of communicating, and learn other methods.
And that's different in different cultures. And
absolutely.
Certainly, as a Latina, obviously you were brought in certain ways. And many Latin America have a certain protocol, if you will, on how they should be. But you need to understand that, is what you're saying.
Yes. I am from Latin family, but the same time we can compare our home. Okay, I guess that the home from Jean and my home, some moment for the relationship is similar.
A lot of this book is, and we talked offline, that is also applicable if you're already in a relationship.
Yes.
How so, Jim?
Well, couples sometimes react, and we have an example in the book of a husband and wife who are married, of course, as a husband and wife, but they're miscommunicating. He's afraid to show how he feels because in his family, his father never showed his mother how they felt. She grew up in a household as a single child where they always showed her and each other how much they loved each other. So she's dying for that kind of relationship with her husband, and he thinks that's the wrong way of communicating. She thinks he doesn't like her or doesn't love her anymore, and he just doesn't understand what she needs. That they were able to look, using the book, they were able to look at the way they grew up, their parents and their household, share that information with each other, and realize that each needed a different method of communication, a different method of showing love.
And often when you go for any sort of counseling, or marriage counseling, couples counseling, one of the things they always tell you is how vital communications is. And you really kind of highlight that in the book as well.
Yes.
I'm going to give out the number and the web page. It's 90daysoulmate.com.
Yes.
That's your web page. And the phone number is 856, and we have it up on the screen now, 751-8080. So anyone that's interested could certainly call. They could get the book at the web page. And where else can we get the book?
Amazon.com has that book available. And right at the bottom of that web page is a link to Amazon, a link to CreateSpace, which is another publisher. So those are two places to get that.
Now, in addition to being authors that you share together, you also have a consulting business for this kind of counseling.
Yes.
But you also have business counseling as well.
Yes, for the
So you have two counseling businesses, and certainly anyone that's interested could also contact you via the phone number or the web page. Now, what advice do you give couples? And we mentioned how great the book is in terms of helping couples, but to make their relationship not just last for 7 years, but to last for life, because you're talking about soulmates, right?
Right.
People that are going to be with you for the rest of your life. So what's the best advice you could give them?
Okay, I the first.
Always defer to your wife. That's the best advice.
Yes, when you have really connection with your emotion and your mind, if you understand really what kind is that the feel that your partner and you feel, you can have the connection yourself. I guess that we have some article in different media for internet. We prepare one imagine when you can see in the moment when the soul is at the really connection. You explain.
Well, what we like to talk about with couples is that to connect at the soul, you've got to remove sometimes the physical and mental blocks to connecting. And that's recognizing those programs that block and physical differences between the two. That we sometimes live in such a, like, this is what I do for a living, this is how I interact with people, that we live outwardly and we don't really think of our internal. And what we do here is by focusing on your internal and those internal needs and wants and who you are, you can now share those with your partner.
You talk about the 50-50 energy. What's that about?
Well, the 50-50 energy is that we are both responsible for our relationship. That when any two people meet, there is a second, like if you've hit a note on a piano and you have two notes,
right,
there's a third note, which is the harmony of those two. That each note is responsible for a portion of that harmony. So in our communication, in how we relate to each other, if there's something wrong or something right, we're each equally to share.
Now, spirituality is also an important aspect of the relationship. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, because we have, we're talking about the co-create, okay? We know, we believe that we have some energies. Some people say God, some people say different God, but we know that some energy helps for you have connection, but you can understand this energy, or you can understand what is the mess when you really have clear your emotion and your mind. When your mind is quiet, when your emotion is quiet, you can connection with this energy, you can co-create your perfect match.
So it's very vital information. Again, the book is Single. I met my soulmate in 90 days, and it doesn't have to be 90 days, right?
Yes.
If you apply the principle.
It can be shorter than that if you'd like it to be.
Well, thank you for joining us here on Latino Motion. Thank you at home for joining us once again on Latino Motion.